Hello, and welcome to Games That Suck, a gaming retrospective in the Shea Hates Everything podcast family. My name's Kyle, and I'll be your host today. And of course, I am joined by my brother, Shea. Welcome, Shea.
Hello! Hi! I'm matching your energy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It'd be really weird if you came in and didn't match it at all. So this is...
I gotta say, yeah, it's weird. It's weird listening to you do the intro. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I bet it's weird for the listener, too. It's very weird for me.
So much of the pressure is off my shoulders. I love it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point.
It's still my namesake. Like, I get all of the credit and none of the blame, which is just exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, it's like the Team Coco, the Conan O'Brien podcast stuff. Like, they have other podcasts of other people that run it, but it's all still in the Team Coco brand. And so yes. Conan's just sitting back making the moolah, which is all you have to do. You just have to sit back, look pretty, and make the moolah. Good luck. Good luck with that second one.
It's an audio podcast, so I can't look like anything. And also, we make no money. So this analogy has fallen apart extremely quickly.
Okay, so just sit back. All right? Okay? All right? Okay? Yeah, okay.
Hey, you know what? That I will do.
All right, let's explain what we're doing here. Games That Suck is a series where we look back at some of gaming's lowest lows. Each episode, we're going to be progressing through the timeline of video games year by year, arguing about what the bottom 3 games of each year should be. So it's the bottom 3, right? We're looking at the worst games. Alternating with Games That Suck is another Shea Hates Everything family podcast, and you can probably all see where this is going. Games That Don't Suck.
Oh.
Yeah, where we'll argue about what the top 5 games of each year should be. Right, so we're going to have a bottom 3 with games that suck, and a top 5 with games that don't suck, because I think in general, you and I play more games that don't suck than games that suck. So
yes, it will be equally fun in the Games That Suck section, or like those podcasts, to talk about, especially in recent years, games that we didn't play, but that we know enough to know that they suck.
Yeah. So,
but you're right. We have become fairly good at avoiding the real games that suck.
Savvy
but not
consumers.
There will be plenty of games to talk about each and every year.
Yeah. Mortals of Avam. Bless me. Another little programming note that these episodes of Games That Suck and Games That Don't Suck are going to be releasing between our normal Shea Hates Everything podcast episodes, targeting the third Monday of every month. So the regular podcast posts on the first Monday of every month, then we're going to be right in the middle of it with alternating Games That Suck and Games That Don't Suck on the third Monday of every month. And we're kicking off the new podcast series with 1995, which is the titular release, the North American release of the Sony PlayStation. So there are a lot of games that you and I have played over the years, not necessarily in 95 when they released,
right?
But since then we have played a lot of these games and have come to know a lot about them, and can hopefully speak semi-authoritatively on their quality, especially in the negative. That's kind of what we're doing here.
And for context, in 1995, I was 7.
I was
you
3.
Were 3. So yeah, I guess at 7, I did play a decent amount of games. We had a Sega Genesis when it released.
Yeah.
And we got a PlayStation 1 when it first came out, but it wasn't for the next couple of years that, especially you got the finger mobility to actually play video games.
Yes, yeah.
So the retrospective approach, I think, is definitely appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these games, we were kids, we were going over to friends' houses, our friends had systems that we didn't have, and we'd watch them play.
Like an SNES, for example.
Or
because we
Sega
made the
Saturn.
wrong choice.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We chose the wrong side early on with Sega.
Dude, I love you know what? I come down hard on people who don't like the Genesis, aka the Mega Drive. That system fucking rules. I still have our Sega Genesis, and it still works.
That's great. You know what system is better than the Sega Genesis?
Okay.
Is the Super NES. one of the greatest video game consoles to ever release. I would not put the Sega Genesis up against the SNES.
I would. Any day of the week. I'd be the one person on that side of the fence. All right. So, we talked about some programming notes. Let's talk about the format that we're following for this series of podcasts. So, Shea and I have scrolled through the Wikipedia page for game releases in 1995.
Spoiler alert, a lot of games came out in 1995.
Yeah, a shocking amount. I had no idea. Right? And this includes handheld, PC, all the different systems available at the time. Like, Wikipedia is a catch-all. So we're kind of scrolling through all of those things because I think at some point in time, you and I have had the ability to play most of these games. Now, some of them are not available anymore, but you and I have had a chance to play a surprising amount of these games, I guess. Like, going through the list, I was surprised at how many of them I have played.
Right.
I'm sure you feel similarly. So we went through the Wikipedia page, laboriously went through it, picked out any games we've played or have significant knowledge of that we would like to nominate for the suck list. So we're going to start by talking about each of those games, alternating kind of our bigger list. And then once we've talked about all those games and why they're bad and why the creators should be ashamed, then we'll begin cutting and specifically probably arguing, and eventually, hopefully, we'll agree on what the bottom 3 games of 1995 are. So
I also want to say something really quick, if I may.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard not to railroad this podcast because I'm used to hosting, and so I want you to drive the conversation.
All
so
aboard,
I apologize
baby.
in advance for constantly jumping in. But one other thing we didn't cover ahead of time that I think is worth mentioning, just sort of as a catch-all, which, worth mentioning every episode we do this. We're talking about games that released in the year when we, on the system that we played them. So, if a game came out on PC in 95, and then it came out in PlayStation in 96, and we played it on PlayStation, even if we didn't play the game until 2005, whatever, we'll talk about that game in the year when it released on the console that we played it on.
Yes.
That's far less common over the past 20 years, but especially in the 90s, it was very regular for a game to release in Japan in a year, release in the North America the next year, and then release on a different console the year following. So it gets fuzzy. I think the biggest part of this is who gives a shit.
Also,
we're just talking about games we like and games we think are bad. So we're gonna play a little fast and loose. Who cares?
Yeah, come along for the ride. If you don't want to, we have another podcast for you, and it's called the Shea Hates Everything podcast. Go along for that ride instead, baby.
Yeah, I guess also worth talking, in the event that this is the first Shea Hates Everything podcast you've listened to in the Shea Hates Everything family of podcasts, which, Kyle, I love that you called it that.
Because we are a family. We're brothers.
Sounds literally family. But it also sounds really pretentious. It sounds like an MLM, like a multi-level marketing scheme in some way. But point being, if this happens to be the first podcast from Shea Hates Everything that you've listened to because you randomly Googled bad video games from 1995 and stumbled upon this, check out the Shea Hates Everything podcast. Yeah. It's our flagship podcast in the family of podcasts. And that's something we post the first Monday of every month. We talk about all the stuff we're playing right now, news. We do emails, all that good stuff. But, this is a much smaller podcast. Well, we'll see after we've recorded how long it is. But it's intended to be a much smaller, more focused podcast just for fun. Because Kyle had the fun idea. And hey, baby, this is a lot of content. Once a month, 2 podcasts per year of release. This is a podcast we'll be doing for the next decade. Hooray.
Yeah, we'll be doing this until we die. One of us will be dead before we catch up to current. I do also want to say, when I read, because I wrote the intro, right, and then I read it, neither times, writing it or reading it, did I skip a beat on Shea Hates Everything podcast family. Hearing you say it out loud, I totally get how stupid and ridiculous that is.
It sounds real stupid and ridiculous, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I like it a lot more now. We need to start working that into the regular podcast intro now.
Well,
because we got to update it.
I came up with flagship podcast on the spot as I was talking about our main show. So you know the next episode of that, I'm calling it our flagship podcast.
Oh, man. All right, something for the listeners to look forward to. Okay. So, like I said, kind of at the jump, we have our larger lists that we need to start dwindling down, basically. So we're going to take turns. I'll go first because I'm the host and I'm more important than you. And because
just for today,
you get the flagship podcast. This is my ship, baby. Right. The tiny little dinghy that's attached to the flagship that like people flee for their lives in. This is that one, but it's mine, damn it. And I'm gonna start. This is the Rayman boat. I'm gonna start talking about Rayman.
All right,
I'm coming. So I'm coming for you.
Here's the thing about this. So while we do games that suck and games that don't suck separately, we're kind of working out a Google Docs simultaneously for both of those episodes because it's just easier to go year by year, pull out the good games and the bad games at the same time.
Yeah.
I, as a little spoiler alert for the games that don't suck from 1995, I included Rayman and the next game on Kyle's list in the games that don't suck. And then suspiciously, a few minutes after I entered those games, I saw them in the games that suck list. So Kyle, please tell me how you think Rayman, one of the first great platform games in the history of video games, is actually bad?
Rayman has never been good. So the problem with Rayman is because his limbs are disconnected. Like, look, it looks nice. It has a fun kind of jumpy soundtrack, whatever. Because his limbs are detached, he's really hard to get a read on in terms of platforming, where you are at any point in space at any given time, and like how your jumps are going to land, how all this stuff. I just don't think playing Rayman feels good. I think it feels terrible, especially compared to a lot of the other side-scrolling platformers in this era.
That's also why they made the game so much more forgiving and loose in how it platforms. Like, this game stands so far apart from games like Mario, and that's one of the things that I love about it. That isn't to say anything negative of Mario's approach to platforming, but this being such a different approach to that style of game made it feel so cool and fresh and special at the time. Because I would absolutely agree with you that it adds an unnecessary, unfair difficulty because of sort of like the floaty, abstract nature of the character, but they tuned the platforming to match that.
Yeah,
You're crazy. Take this off the list. We will talk more about this game on the Games That Don't Suck podcast. I'm not saying it's going to make our top 5 clearly because you didn't like it.
Spoiler alert, it's not making either list apparently. Because it's caught in this weird liminal space between your liking it and me hating it.
Yeah, there's no way. I for the sake of the podcast, I would love to hear more specifics about why you didn't like this game, even though I don't want to hear about it because it's dumb.
I really think it feels bad. My memory of it, I remember playing it at a friend's house, and it was like, it was the same friend's house. They had the Super Nintendo, and they had Yoshi's Island. And, like, that game was so fun and incredible and felt great to play. And then, like, we're going to play Rayman? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? I think you're crazy.
No. This was also, dude, this Michel Ancel, like, created this character.
Yeah, great for him.
Michel Ancel's, he's got a good career, bro.
Okay, that doesn't make this game good.
I'll say this much. I really love the first Rayman game. I don't have super strong memories of any of the other Rayman games. And then Rayman Origins was dope. And that came out like a decade ago.
I hated that too.
No, that game is fantastic.
All right,
but that's fine.
Well, regardless,
you don't like it.
Yeah, we can take it off the list.
Yeah, dude, it's not making the bottom 3. They ain't no way. And you might as well go ahead and talk about your next game because it's going to suffer the same fate on this list.
Oh my god!
There's no way.
Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Conquest.
Yeah, that game is dope. Next,
dude, no, that game is horrible.
Are you?
The first Donkey Kong Country is good.
Did you mix up your list?
No,
Are these supposed to be the good games for the next episode?
Shut up! Come on. No. Dude, the first Donkey Kong Country is so good, and then you're like, hey, I want more of that, and like, oh, we're gonna make you play as the character you don't give a shit about.
No. Dude, Diddy's great.
And I don't think the levels are anywhere near as memorable as the first one.
Look, if the argument is which game is better, Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong Country 2, I agree with you. The first game is better. But Donkey Kong Country 2 slaps. It's great. It's super fun.
I just like the music isn't as good, the level design isn't as good.
Well,
You're
that doesn't
not playing
make
a
it
character
bad.
you care about, but it
makes it one of the worst games that came out in the year.
It makes it
You're
really
crazy.
disappointing.
Nah.
And you're right, it's not making the list. I just wanted to complain. So, objective complete.
Well, hey, Diddy's Conquest ain't going to make the top 5 list either at this rate, but
yeah.
I'll be able to sing its praises a little more next time.
Okay. Well, why don't you do one now, since you've shit all over you shit on my shit.
Yeah. What's a fun one to start with here? Because I just kind of organized mine alphabetically. Let's first talk about Clayfighter 2.
Yeah,
Judgment Clay.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So I was a huge fan of Clayfighter, the first game. It was one that I played religiously at a friend's house, and the whole attitude of that game, the sort of tongue-in-cheekness, for a child, the more mature tone of, and by mature I do not mean adult mature, I mean 13-year-old mature sense of humor, the potty jokes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I totally got a kick out of it. I loved the animation style. The claymation really came through in all of the combat. Love that first game.
It was unique.
We're not going to be able to talk about that game because we're not going that far back in time.
Yeah.
Clayfighter 2 loses so much of what made the first game special. It looks, because they're trying to make it more 3D, and so it loses a lot of that claymation feel, the goofiness of the movement and the animations, and it also was a little more self-serious than tongue-in-cheek, which ruined a lot of the sort of perspective that the first game brought to bear.
Yeah.
I don't think this game is bad. I mostly want to talk about it because, to your point about, Donkey Kong Country 2, this game was such a huge disappointment in comparison to the first game, and we aren't going to be able to talk about the first game, so this was kind of an excuse to bring up Clayfighter, because that game rules.
Okay.
Clayfighter is great.
Well, hey, we're 3 for 3 talking about games that are actually bad, aren't we, huh? We're batting 1,000 here.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's, again, going back, it's hard. There's a lot of shit on this list there are a lot of bad games on this list, and I could probably pick 3 or 4 that I think are going to be our final list.
Yeah.
But it's worth talking about other games that we were disappointed by that we didn't like, because it's, we've got 15 or so games on here. It's not like we're working through 40 games.
Yeah, and we don't have another venue to complain.
That's true.
This is the only podcast we produce.
That's totally true.
So,
yep. Hey, well, this is the only podcast we produce that allows us to complain about games that came out 30 years ago.
Yeah, look, we can do whatever we want at any time. Just people might question the relevance.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about Rayman. We talked about Donkey Kong Country 2, Clayfighter 2. Let's talk about Worms.
Another game that will immediately come off because it's good.
What?
Worms is good.
Worms fucking blows butt, dude.
No. It's good.
Worms is terrible.
It's not terrible. It's another situation where it's not as good as oh shit, what was the original on PC that this was based on? Why can't I think of the thing? I'm pulling up the Wikipedia page now because I can't remember.
Oh, Scorched Earth?
No, Lemmings.
No, Worms is not a Lemmings.
Sorry, it's not based on Lemmings. It is inspired by Lemmings.
Oh. It's not like Lemmings much at all.
I think it is in terms of its tone and the yeah, isn't, I mean, it's got I think it's got a lot of similarities in
gameplay
how you're
wise,
controlling the
gameplay wise, it's like you're firing the artillery at each other across the screen and you can't like see where you're firing.
Yeah, but maybe I'm just conflating the two.
Maybe.
Because aren't you also controlling multiple units like you are in Lemmings?
Yeah, like you have control of like a team or like a squad of several worms.
Sure, yeah.
You select your worm, you can like pick whatever, like they have different weapons and stuff, and they like arc differently and have different effects when you fire them and stuff.
Right.
And you're trying to. It's basically it's like Angry Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It sucks. It's not. It blows, dude. It's not fun. It like not being able to see where you're gonna fire is like a core part of the gameplay. I think that's bad. I think that's no good.
I get that. I guess like that's part of the challenge though, is learning where the enemy units are in how you aim. Because like if you can just see where they are, like in Angry Birds, it makes it too simple.
Yeah, maybe I also just only ever played this with a friend and they always destroyed me or something, and maybe that's why I have this deep-seated hatred for worms. I don't remember, but I do not like worms to the point where I have actively avoided every Worms video game since playing this original.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played another Worms game. So that says something.
Okay. So, I mean, can we keep it on the list for now?
I think that's fine, but it's not going to make it.
It's probably not going to make it, but it'd make me feel better to not have one that's in red text at this point.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Okay, you do another one.
Yeah, let's dive into like one of the heavy hitters here that I've got on my list. Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster. So this is like an adventure game, sort of a tile-based, room-based adventure game starring Tim Curry, because of course he turns in just an absolutely fantastic performance, as he always does.
Yeah, man, he had like this weird stint where he was doing a ton of FMV games.
Yeah, the stint was the 90s.
Yeah, I guess.
Because he needed money.
Well, that's totally fair. And it did always seem like he was having a good time.
Sure. Yeah, he gives it his all.
Like at the end of like Command and Conquer or whatever, he's the meme, him going, space!
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like he's just laughing while he's trying to give that monologue. It's so good.
Yeah. He definitely, I would say he takes this game more seriously in his performance, but it's still like chewing scenery style acting, because that is the style of FMV acting in games. I mean, like, I would say, because it feels like, just going through the big list of games, the games that came out in 1995, like, predominantly were fighting games, side-scrolling action platformers, and, like, Myst style or Myst inspired adventure games with FMV. Yeah. Like, those are the only three genres of games that came out in 1995. And this, I think, is maybe the worst in terms of the FMV style adventure games. There's one more game to talk about that I think gives it a run for its money. I would push for both of them to end up on the final list. I would certainly push for this game to be on the list because of how bad the writing is and the puzzles are. Like, many of the puzzles are boring. Like, it's hard to go back to old school adventure games like Secret of Monkey Island, because so many of the puzzles are like you have to memorize what thing you're supposed to use in what circumstance, and there's no way for you to know, and no internet for you to Google the answer.
Right.
And so they created this like artificial difficulty. I don't think that's the case in this game, but it's bad in the opposite way, where the puzzles just like aren't interesting. Unlike a game like Myst, which it's hard to compare games to Myst because it's like one of the greatest games ever made, in especially in that genre. But it sucks, bro. I would feel a little bad putting a Tim Curry game on the list.
Yeah.
But it's extremely, extremely bad.
Okay. All right. We can keep it around.
It's so corny and not in a fun way.
Okay. I have never even heard of this one, which is maybe another sign of how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a licensed game. It's the Frankenstein story, but yeah, not a critical nor financial hit, I would say.
Right. Okay. My next one, even the name of it's just terrible. Wild Woody.
This I have never heard of.
Okay. This is a Sega CD game where you play. It's a 2D platformer. You play as a pencil.
Okay.
Sounds
good so far.
Specifically, an anthropomorphic pencil.
Of course.
It's like pretty racist as well.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that I remember about it. And in looking through the Wikipedia, you're trying to gather scattered segments of a totem pole that brought you to life.
Okay.
And let's say like some of the portrayals of native culture or things like that are like kind of not cool in Wild Woody. And like the platforming is just really bad again, because I mean, you can look up images of it and stuff. Like his limbs he moves crazily. And it's hard to get a read on a lot of the platforming elements and like what, like the hazards in the environments, what their hitboxes are, stuff like that. It's just not very well put together. So not only is it bad, it's also racist. Which is not good.
I'm looking at some Wild Woody footage, and boy, this seems rotten. I also, just as a quick note on the critical reception, Game Informer gave this a 3 out of 10.
Ooh.
And EGM, famous Electronic Gaming Monthly, I believe this was
EGM.
Back when they were scoring categories separately, like visuals out of 10, etc. It got a 22.5 out of 40, which is also quite bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh shoot, from the Game Pro review, Woody comes up short in every department. The title, they agreed the title was tragic. The Game Informer review lambasted the game as tremendously putrid and one of the most impotent games in the Sega CD's pathetic library.
Yeah. Man, when I was scrolling through the list and I saw the name of the game, I was like, I had like PTSD.
Oh man.
And like, I mean, I played this a long time ago at like a friend's house, and when I played it, obviously I was too young to like pick up on the racist themes, but
sure,
seeing it again, looking at it, and like my memory coming back, I'm like, yeah, this game's actually pretty much not okay in all respects.
Oh my.
So
yeah,
Wild Woody.
A perfect allegory for the failure of the Sega CD, says Screen Rant.
Man, that
okay,
hurts.
this is a strong contender.
Yeah.
I wish that I had played this game.
Oh, no you don't. No, you do
just
not.
for the memories. Oh
Sure.
man. Yeah, go Google Wild Woody and just look at this character.
Well, turn safe search on though.
Oh jeez. Oh yeah, fair. Okay. Let's do Phantasmagoria. Okay. So this is the other FMV game that I mentioned. This one is certainly more of a personal take. It was pretty mixed in terms of reviews as I was like looking everything up. There were lots of people that really enjoyed the storytelling and things like that. I think for me, visually, it looks worse than Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster.
Just like the quality of the FMV, or
yes,
okay.
No, well, it's so it's I guess both games kind of take this approach where it's FMV, like essentially on a green screen overlaid on top of a virtual environment.
Yeah.
And in this game, like that virtual environment looks much more poor than Frankenstein.
Okay.
Frankenstein also has the sort of gothic tone thing going for it, which always helps a little bit. So Phantasmagoria, so this was like a horror game. I only know of it because a friend would play it on PC, and I wasn't psyched about that because if you don't know, but most listeners probably do, I'm not a big spooky game fan.
Okay.
But so this was like an early trauma that I experienced, was watching some Phantasmagoria being played.
Do you remember who the friend was?
No.
Okay.
I can picture their house in their neighborhood, but I do not remember the name of the child.
Was it Wisconsin or Illinois?
It was Wisconsin. Yes.
Is it?
We don't need to name.
Well, I'm not gonna name drop. I'm trying to think of a different way. They had like dirt bikes and stuff.
No.
Okay, different folks. Got it. Okay.
Yes, different folks.
Never mind.
So Phantasmagoria, again, like, a lot of people liked this game. One of the reasons that I think it's worth calling out here is how ridiculous the production of this game was. So I watched a video on it as I was like trying to recall some memories here. And apparently this game cost $4.5 million to make in 1995.
I'm pulling up an inflation calculator.
That's a lot of money.
4 5 0 0 0 0 0 0 0, right? 1 2 3 no, one less 0 in 95. Calculate. Sorry, that's 45 million. God damn it.
Oh Lord. While you're doing
4.5.
that, it's worth mentioning that the game was originally budgeted for $800K, and they ended up spending $4.5 million.
Yeah, that's $9 million in today's money.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Holy shit.
For an FMV game.
Holy shit.
So this game also, and I think one of the things that people liked about it was pretty graphic. It was very disturbing because, again, it's a horror game. There's a lot of like body horror. There was a particular scene where like they pull a woman's head apart, like on the screen. So it felt very like an over the top gory 80s horror movie, but not like a slasher film horror, more like that psychological body horror style, which that was very popular in the 80s. It makes sense why that kind of was in the video game world as well.
Oh man,
but
I can just
again,
imagine little 7-year-old Shay sitting in the dark with his friend at a computer.
Very off-putting. It's also like, just looking back at my notes here, another like fun fact that I didn't know about this game: the script for this game was 500 pages long.
Oh my!
Which, for those that don't know, typically, and they shoot this like it's a film. In film production, you typically average a minute per page. So if you extrapolate that out, let me do some quick math here. 500 times a minute per page, 500 pages. That's 500 minutes of content. That's too much. That's more than you need.
It's more than 8 hours.
So again, it speaks to the bloated nature of the production and going over budget and all that good stuff too. The game cost $4.5 million. It says on Wikipedia that it grossed $12 million. Sold 300,000 units during the first week. Like, that's a lot.
Dang, man.
So the game did well, but my memories of the game are extremely negative. And again, like, if we're comparing Phantasmagoria to Frankenstein, I think that Phantasmagoria has more going for it from a uniqueness and, like, deserving to exist perspective. But Frankenstein, like, because of Tim Curry, because it's a little more stupid, that game I liked more than Phantasmagoria.
Okay. But
they both suck.
Yeah.
Both of these games I would put on the list personally.
Yeah, just to put some of the money in perspective though, when we say like $9 million in today's dollars for the budget, like that's a huge number. But like Last of Us Part 2 had a $220 million budget.
Yes, but also
I know
video game production has scaled in a completely ridiculous way.
It's apples and oranges.
So yeah, it is.
It is,
and
just
also
fun to put
again,
it in perspective.
It's an FMV game,
right.
You know, it can be expensive to try to shoot that, but the way they were shooting it then was not expensive,
right?
Or shouldn't. It was way more expensive to try to make something in 3D than it was to shoot actors on a green screen.
Whereas now that's kind of shifted.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because those stupid actors want fair pay. Bunch of bullshit.
Hey, support your writers in the writer's strike. Is all I'll say. All right, this next one you and I share. We actually had the same on both of our lists, and that is Batman Forever.
Yeah.
A movie that I fucking love. I love this movie.
It's a fun time.
It is, yeah.
It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
But I love it. Not so much for the game. It's a bad game, and I don't love it. So interesting. You played it on Genesis. I actually played this on Game Boy.
Okay.
Which is a far inferior way to play an already bad game.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Terrible way to play Batman Forever. So tell me a little bit about it on Genesis, because I want to talk about how it was on Game Boy.
Well, did it just run worse, or was it a different game?
So I have memories of it being a different game.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember the Game Boy version just being a pretty typical platform game that just felt horrible and looked terrible because it was on a Game Boy and they're going for this pseudo realism.
Yeah, because I think there were on Genesis there were different ways that you could play. So it had co-op for the that platforming stuff. It had a fighting game mode that was a separate mode to load into, I believe.
Okay.
But then that story, the level based stuff, it had combat, platforming, and some puzzle stuff, co-op-y kind of puzzle things.
Okay, so interesting. Yeah, the Game Boy version did not have any of that. It was just pretty much a straight platformer.
Oh.
Yeah. It was barely a game.
Yeah.
It was not good.
That's straight shovelware then. Because
pretty much.
The games definitely sucked on Genesis. It didn't look good. It didn't feel good. It was just one of those games that it felt like a movie cash-in, which is what it was. There was a lot of those back in the day. But yeah, that sounds even worse somehow on Game Boy.
Yeah, it really was. And I think there's an added layer to this, right? I was such a huge fan of the Batman films, and as a child, if they're gonna market something as being attached to the films, this is early on, also very young, you get very excited about things. I was very excited about the idea of perhaps playing one of my favorite movies on a handheld device on the go. What an insane proposition! Make all my wildest dreams come true. That game's not good. It was not a good time. It was terrible. So there's an added layer of childhood disappointment on that one that doesn't exist for some of these other ones.
Yeah, that's definitely extra bad.
Yeah.
I want to cover really quickly because I've got a handful of other licensed side-scrolling games that I don't think will qualify for the list, but are worth saying the names of. Garfield Caught in the Act.
Oh my.
Was a side-scrolling Garfield game.
Yeah.
It came out on the Genesis. It was very bad.
There has not been a good Garfield game.
Yeah, you might imagine that a Garfield game. I will say that I liked how the game looked. Not comparable, but it looks a little bit like Toe Jam and Earl. It's got more of the over-the-top sort of fluid-looking cartoony art to it. So I did kind of like that aspect of it, how it looked. But yeah, the gameplay was Bad. But yeah, I don't think it's bad enough to fit into what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess this other one you do have on the list, so I'll save that.
Yeah.
But then the last, two more that I've got. Real Monsters, which is a show that I really liked as a kid.
Yeah,
a
me too.
Nickelodeon show. This was, I would say this, unlike Batman Forever, like this wasn't just like a cash in on the brand, because Batman Forever had a little bit more brand cachet than something like All Real Monsters did.
Right.
Like this was a video game, but it was just a very sort of paint by numbers platformer. You can switch between the 3 different characters, and they all have like a particular ability that you need to use to solve a puzzle or like a platforming sequence. None of it is challenging. Like the black and white tall, the chick one, she can like reach really high. So like if you need to climb up something, you switch to her and do that. And it's just like there's not a lot of depth, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the ability to switch between them, I think, was like at least a somewhat interesting change compared to a lot of these like side-scrolling platformers. But I don't think my memory is that it was not particularly fun. Like got boring pretty quickly. And then the last one that I'll mention is the Itchy and Scratchy game. This is mostly like this game. This is a game that does not deserve to exist. It did not have a modicum of the over-the-top violence of the show on The Simpsons. Like it was missing so much of the point of Itchy and Scratchy. Because like you play as Itchy the mouse, and you're trying to get Scratchy the cat, and so the whole thing that you're trying to do is attack him and like the other enemies that are there. But like all of the things, like the weapons and stuff that you have, are very standard, and it just doesn't have the like. Watching Itchy and Scratchy on The Simpsons, like you're seeing them like torture each other and blow each other up with dynamite and cut each other in half with saws, and it just didn't have that like over the top, cartoony, kid friendly violence from the show on The Simpsons. So again, like it's just a game that it did not deliver anything of what you would want from a game like this, and that makes it bad.
Yikes.
Yeah. So we want to talk about the other licensed side-scrolling game here, which I think is certainly worse than the 3 I just talked about.
Yeah, the one on my list.
Yes.
Okay. The Mask, as in Jim Carrey's The Mask, for the Super Nintendo. This game fucking sucks. This game is a piece of shit. Like, oh man, because all right, it's supposed to be like a side scroller, like pseudo platformer, pseudo brawler, pseudo a bunch of other things. It doesn't do any of those things well. Like
right.
It doesn't look very good. Like the color palette is all really like muted except for him and like his yellow suit or whatever. It's kind of the only thing that pops. Everything else kind of blends in, is hard to see. I remember like the frame rate being really bad. So like you're supposed to be able to like dodge enemy bullets and stuff. And the frame rate being so bad, or the refresh rate being so bad, that like you couldn't really see the bullets very well. Like you couldn't dodge them very well.
Yeah.
It just, man, this game fucking sucks. And it had too much going on. There were like a bunch of things that you were trying to collect and manage, and just not good.
And there's so much potential in that IP, and with the like ability to translate that to a video game for the super over the top, moves and animations and all of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
like all the crazy things that you could do, like stretching and making stuff animate weirdly and whatever else. Like they did some of those things, but like very few.
And it also, it's like my memory is that it's a lot of stuff that was in the movie. Like they tried to recreate the movie things like the scene with where he has the mallet, like that's an attack in the game. Like it didn't feel like they were being inventive with his cool stuff that he could do.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing redeemable about it. It's really bad.
Yeah, do you think it's worse than Batman Forever?
I don't. So I don't know that it stays on the list.
Yeah, from what you're talking about, like in the Game Boy version in particular for Batman Forever, sounds very strong on this list.
I feel stronger about how bad Batman Forever is on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know what? Let me make sure. Okay, yes. Yeah, all right. Batman Forever did release in 95 on the Game Boy. I was just making sure.
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to make sure that version came out in the same year.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't matter. Like I said at the beginning, it came out on Genesis in 95, which is where I played it anyway. So
yeah, I just, for my purposes of my listing it and adding to how bad it is, I wanted to make sure that was also in 95.
Yeah, but like we said, who cares?
Also, yeah, who cares? If you care at home, why? All right, why don't we do one of yours?
Yeah, so, sticking in the themes of the side-scrollers here, licensed games, the Judge Dredd game. I hearing the strengths of some of these other ones that we're going through, I think that this is going to be a cut, but it's worth talking about because I guess in differentiation from a lot of the games we've talked about, like this, it was... had like run and gun stuff, like you were shooting dudes. It wasn't just hitting guys like in Batman or Garfield or all these other games. It had more of a not Contra, but like a little bit of that flavor, where it was shooting guys like a Metroid sort of thing. It was just very straightforward. The universe of Judge Dredd is very cool.
Yeah.
The character Judge Dredd is very cool.
Retro future cop aesthetic.
Yeah, and like I guess like in the design of the world in the game, I think it captures that, but the execution does not at all.
Sure.
Like graphically, this game does not look impressive. It doesn't look unique. It doesn't have like any particular flair other than the cool world that it takes place in. It's just a really straightforward kind of game.
Yeah.
It just feels like a missed opportunity to go a little more over the top with it.
Right.
Or,
yeah.
Have a little bit more of the attitude like the movie did.
Yeah. I had a mini heart attack when I saw this on your list because I thought my brain went to the light gun game that came out later in the PS1's life cycle.
I don't remember that.
Oh, dude, that was my favorite light gun game next to Die Hard Trilogy. But I actually still have our PlayStation 1 light gun, the purple one.
Man, yeah,
I still have that.
Yeah, I remember
with the turbo button.
Die Hard games.
Yeah, but there was a Judge Dredd game that was also a light gun game that I played the absolute crap out of. So I had a mini heart attack when I saw that on there, and I looked at it. I was like, oh, side scroller. Okay, you're not touching my baby. All right, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that doesn't sound like it'll make it. Maybe one of my next two will. We'll see. This next one is called Fade to Black.
This I don't know what it is either. I'm excited.
So,
because you made a pretty strong case for Wild Woody.
Yeah, I mean that's almost a lock. All right. So Fade to Black. It is a sequel to the '92 game Flashback, which has in the past 5-6 years or so, it had a re-release like Flashback, and then it had some subtitle, but kind of it was a side scroller, but it was kind of like an adventure game with a little bit of combat, but it was about it's about hidden lizard people taking over the planet, lizard people disguised as humans, and they're taking over the planet. But that's like kind of a mystery that is slowly coming to the forefront throughout the game, and it's almost like the first Tomb Raider game, how it controls so terribly, and there's all this crazy animation, but that's kind of what makes it charming.
Flashback was the 2D version of that. Like, it had all this crazy animation. It was kind of pixel arty, but the pixel art animation was really, really good. And, like, there was a lot of these, like, cool, like, ledge climbing and dropping and rolls and stuff. And he just had, like, a lot of animation cycles that were all really well animated. And then also there's kind of the story playing out that's, like, it's not, like, super straightforward. It's kind of teasing things along. So it was doing some maturely developed things with its story that a lot of other platformers would not have done at the time. And so that's why Flashback is kind of like a cult hit, enough so that it even got like a release later down the line. Fade to Black is the sequel to that game. I guess they heard everyone was making a 3D game, and so they're like, hey, we should do that. So it's a first-person 3D shooter on the original PlayStation. I cannot explain with enough veracity how ungodly bad this video game is. Like,
oh boy,
it's like 5 frames a second. The environments are all fully 3D rendered, so they look like complete and utter shit. Like, trying to interact with a door to open it is like a 10-minute process of trying to find the right spot to stand to interact with it. And then they're like, it sets itself up a little bit like an original Resident Evil, like a first-person Resident Evil. So like kind of survival horror-y, right? Like you're collecting supplies in your immediate area. Like you're getting like health potions, not potions, but like health sprays and guns and ammo and stuff. And you have an inventory that you're managing very clumsily. And the actual combat is terrible because 5 frames a second, impossible to aim because you don't know where the enemy's going to be in the next 5 frames, and the enemy hits you every single time. It's just an incredibly infuriating game. It's full of a bunch of really esoteric puzzles that are impossible to solve. Like, it has the puzzle design of a lot of those games that you were mentioning, that where it's just like, yeah, I guess I was supposed to do that. How the fuck would I know that? Like, there's no logic behind some of the puzzle solving. And then, like, it's not clear what elements in the environment are interactive. It's just a completely incomprehensible game. I own it on disc for the beams. And God damn it, I hate this game so much. I was really, because I played Flashback, and I was like, oh, this game's so cool. And then I played this, and it was, like, so fucking incredibly terrible.
It sucks.
Yeah. Fade to Black, gameplay.
I have one potential problem. So this came out on PC in 95, but on PlayStation in 96.
Oh,
PC
fuck.
Where you played it?
No, I played it on
Would you consider
PlayStation.
this a PlayStation game?
And, okay, it is third person. I want to say there was, like, a button you could hit to go first person to, like, help you interact with things, I want to say. I'm looking at gameplay now. Man, this game looks like fucking garbage, dude. Yeah. Like, okay, in my head it was first person, but it is definitely third person. But it, like, all of the environments look exactly like I was thinking. I was just thinking it was first person. It is third person. I apologize. But it's bad. But yeah, speaking of like the Lara Croft's tank controls, this has that in spades. God damn it, this game's so bad.
It looks bad. Just looking at screenshots.
It's so bad. I had this period of time where my buddy and I would like try and find really random old survival horror PS1 games, and I stumbled across this one. This is a special place in my heart for games that I hate because of how bad of a time I had with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do not recommend people play this game. I do recommend people give the original game a shot. Flashback. Flashback, Return to Memory, Fade to Memory, something Memory. I don't remember. But that first game is pretty good. This game, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it stays on the list for sure.
Okay.
I think I might have an idea of what our 3 are, but we'll get there. A couple more to go. Let me talk about Venom / Spider-Man : Separation Anxiety, which is the name of this video game.
Unbelievable.
It's not going to stay on the list. It's a bad game. It's primarily bad because it is the sequel to Spider-Man and Venom: Maximum Carnage, which, if you'll notice, the name was Spider-Man and Venom: Maximum Carnage. And then they decided to change the name to Venom / Spider-Man : Separation Anxiety for the sequel. Makes no sense. I guess they wanted to put Venom first because it's 90s Attitude Era. Venom's cool. But why the backslash instead of an and? I will never understand. But Spider-Man and Venom: Maximum Carnage is a very fun game. Side-scrolling beat 'em up. Fun story where they're chasing after Carnage and some of his friends. You can, summon essentially pretty broad variety of Marvel heroes like Captain America and Iron Fist with like power-ups, and it's just like a fun time. It's a cool plot. It's got like cutscene stuff. It's a good game. Separation Anxiety is the sequel that came out a year later, and it's just a complete rehash. Like, the game is almost this identical. The sort of summons or cameos or whatever you want to call them from the other Marvel heroes, they're different this time around. Like, I know Captain America was still in there, but I remember different guys too. Like, I think like Hawkeye and Daredevil and some other more popular characters were in the second one, but you're still like chasing after Carnage and a bunch of Carnage's other like sidekicks. And it just felt, even though it was just a year later, because it was such a rehash, it felt really outdated and like it was ugly, and the sounds were not great. There wasn't a lot of detail in the character designs or the animations or the environments, and it just totally felt like a game that was rushed out to capitalize on all the popular shit happening in the comics.
Right.
Because this just like the first game is based on a comic book plot line. This is based on another comic book plot line, Venom: Separation Anxiety. But yeah, it's bad. It's a bad game. It was a huge bummer coming from the first game, which was very fun. It's not bad enough to make our top 3 or our bottom 3 here.
Okay. I have a funny story with this one.
Yeah.
Well, it's humorous at best, maybe. I went on a camping trip with some friends when I was younger. I was like the one friend that went along with the family on their camping trip. It was one of those.
Okay.
And they had this cabin where they had a Super Nintendo, and like it was one of those cabin Super Nintendos, so it had like one bad controller and one somewhat okay controller, and then like 3 games, and this was one of the 3 games that was there. And so I just have this memory of being stuck in this cabin and not really wanting to be there, and like this was kind of the only game that we had to play. And it was such a horrible time. That's my memory of this game, is being stuck in this cabin I didn't want to be at, and being stuck with this game I didn't want to play.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. I have one more.
Okay, and then I've got 2 more that are worth mentioning that aren't going to make the cut either. So
okay.
You go through yours first.
All right, my last one, Gex.
Yeah, again, look, I'm not going to say that this is one of the best games that came out in 95, but it was fun, man. I've got great memories of Gex. The character, he had that just douchey bro from the 90s attitude that, child Shea was all about. Gex is fun, man. It's a good time.
Not the first Gex.
Sure.
No, not the first. The first one is so bad, dude.
It's kind of slow.
Yeah, it does not feel good. And like the environment design is just like dismissive wank. Like they threw darts at a wall to be like, I guess we'll have one of these levels. Like, it's so terrible.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
And Dana Gould hates it when you try to talk to him about Gex. or so I hear, because he hated being a part of it so much.
Who's Dana Gould?
Dana Gould, he's the one who voiced Gex. He's the voice of Gex.
He hated being in it.
Yeah, and I guess that it was just
like he hated the character.
Supposedly not a good experience for him either. Yeah, and he like hated that these video game nerds kept trying to talk to him about Gex.
Oh, well, that makes me not like him more than it makes me not like the game.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to talk about Gex either. But yeah, I mean, all right. If you have affinity for Gex,
90s though.
I know. If you have affinity for Gex, it's not going to make it.
Yeah, like look, I'm not saying that it's an amazing game, especially the first one, but in a similar vein to Donkey Kong Country 2, like it has that sort of mixed 2D, 3D, like the look of it. I just kind of like. It certainly is all over the place and random, but I know I was kind of into it. But it's mostly the character. I have fond memories of the character.
Sure. Yeah, I
would
have
not
fond
have fond
memories
memories today.
Memeing on the character.
Sure. Yes.
I'm also crossing out Worms because
Worms
I'm looking at the other games that we have highlighted right now, and Worms ain't gonna cut it.
Definitely.
All right. So we have 5. Oh yeah. Do your 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah, my honorable mentions here. So I talked about, hey, there were 3 kind of games that came out. There were action platformers, side-scrolling beat-em-ups, etc. There were FMV adventure games, and then there were like licensed lowest common denominator fighting games, like they had in the Batman Forever mode.
Yeah.
So 2 more examples of that, which ironically are very tied together. The first is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fighting game. It sucks so much. It's just a standard fighting game, 2 out of 3. You've got special moves, basic attacks. It didn't feel good at all. It's got no depth, to how you're fighting. Like, we'll talk about this a little bit in our games that didn't suck, but there were a lot of really good fighting games that came out in 1995. Fighting games were not my jam,
right?
But I played ones on properties that I liked, like Power Rangers, and this just had no depth at all. It had very sort of clunky movement, like there wasn't a good sense of speed to the fighting, which again just makes it's like you're 2 kaiju fighting, like really slow, but you're not. You're just like normal sized dudes. But yeah, it sucks. And in a similar vein, there was also a VR Troopers fighting game.
Oh wow.
Do you remember VR Troopers?
Yes.
The knockoff of Power Rangers?
Yes.
It did have a couple of different types of modes. So you could do like the 1v1 multiplayer, you could fight against the CPU, and then it had like sort of a story mode. The story mode was kind of nothing. You fought you picked one of the VR troopers and you were fighting bad guys, sort of like in a tiered way. But again, it's very similar where it just it's extremely simplistic and straightforward, not a lot of depth, and there's really once you've played a couple of matches, you're not going to learn anything or experience anything new.
Okay.
So yeah, both of those games are very bad, and it's funny because they're both like the same game. Surprised they didn't make what was the other knockoff? A Battleborg? With the beetle guys?
Yeah.
You know what? I bet you there is a fighting game.
Probably, yeah. All right, well, while you look that up, we are down to 5 games. We need to whittle it down to our bottom 3, but here are our bottom 5, just for listeners at home. Wild Woody and His Racist Adventure, Batman Forever, Fade to Black, Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster, and Phantasmagoria. So these are, you know what? Say what you will about all those other video games. We know for a fact that these 5 video games are bad.
Yes. This is definitely the right, final list to cut down.
Yeah, for us.
Not every game we talked about is bad, like Rayman and Diddy's Conquest and Worms, because you're stupid, or Gex.
They have their defenders.
You just hate good video games. Rose-tinted glasses or not, they have their defenders.
Right.
But yeah, these 5 games are all rotten.
Yeah.
I would say Wild Woody is going to make this list.
Okay.
Having not played that game, I would push for that game very hard to make the list.
Okay, so that is one of our 3. Wild Woody.
I would love to see one of the FMV games make the list. I would choose Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster just because of how fucking stupid it is.
Okay.
And despite being horrified and not liking Phantasmagoria, there are things about it that are interesting. Not so a Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster.
Sure.
Also, just the name of the game is Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster. What are we talking? What is that?
I feel bad for Tim Curry, though.
No, don't feel bad for Tim Curry. He got paid.
Okay. All right, so we have Wild Woody and Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster. I think we can unhighlight Phantasmagoria.
Yes.
And then red text it. Yeah, a little bit of formatting juju here. Okay.
I hate to lose either Batman Forever or Fade to Black. You made a very impassioned argument for Fade to Black. I have to go based upon your experience having not played it.
Yeah.
I certainly can speak to Batman Forever as being a bad game, and it being even worse on Game Boy, I think makes it a strong contender.
It does.
Like, what do you hate Fade to Black more than Wild Woody?
That, I don't think you realize how hard of a question you just posed.
Well, I would imagine it's hard because you let the dead air sit for like 10 fucking seconds. Guy who's supposed to be hosting this podcast.
Look, sometimes you gotta think real hard and there's no space for the words. Man, that's... Oh. Look, I think Wild Woody is a lock in a way that Fade to Black is not. I will say that.
That's kind of my read on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the real question, I think, is Fade to Black worse than Batman Forever, including the Game Boy version?
Look, it's difficult because I have not played Fade to Black, so I'm coming from it from that bias. It's hard for me to imagine 2 games that I haven't played making it on a bottom 3 when there is a game as bad as Batman Forever that we both think is so bad, and you in particular. Like, if it was a different scenario where, like, there wasn't a game I was passionate about, it would be a different conversation. Like, I would be happy to put Fade to Black on the list over Phantasmagoria, but when there's a game like Batman Forever, and also a game like Batman Forever that so greatly represents these trash licensed side-scrolling action platformer games, just the lowest common denominator, no effort bullshit games, it's hard for me to put Fade to Black on top, or like, I guess, on bottom, underneath Batman.
Right. Yeah, that hurts. I think Fade to Black is number 4. There isn't a number 4 on our bottom 3. But if there was, I think Fade to Black would nestle there comfortably with a blanket made of sharp polygons that won't give you warmth until you position it just right and find the way in which to interact with it. So
I think the mask might compete for a number 4, but that's fine.
Oh no, dude, Fade to Black is so much worse than the mask. That is not a real conversation we're about to have because we need to move on.
Fair enough.
Fade to Black is a close 4th. All right, so Batman Forever is our 3rd game. Now we need to order them. So for the listeners, I mean, our 3 are Wild Woody, Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster, and Batman Forever. You know, honestly, like, this is a really good spread if I think about it, because like Wild Woody is like
sign of the times. Like, you just can't get away with humor like that anymore. Also, there's no
cringy
redeeming
mascot
qualities.
platformer.
And
In the Bubsy vein, in the Gex vein, like shit that don't play today.
Yeah,
man.
and even less original because you're just a pencil. And then we have, the cash grab Batman Forever licensed game that, like, I mean, I guess, like, if you're going to defend Batman Forever, you could be like, oh, it has all those modes. They really went for something.
But, on some consoles.
Yeah, but what they... Yeah, exactly. But what they really did is they didn't have the budget to make all 3 of those video games, so they made them all into one and did all of them badly.
Sure.
And then we have, your prototypical, intellectually bankrupt FMV adventure game, Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster, R.I.P. Tim Curry.
I think in a sick way, if you played Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster, I think you would be an apologist for that game.
I bet I would be too. And it probably...
Just because I know how you are with that.
It would have 100% to do with Tim Curry's involvement.
Well, sure, but it's the like it has a soul. It has an ambition in it, the way that these other 2 games do not.
Yeah.
It just sucks. It seriously. I can't. Please, good. Like, if you can go find clips of this game. It fucking sucks.
Okay. So,
I mean, not to oversimplify. I feel like this is pretty easy. I would put Frankenstein at number 3, Batman Forever at number 2, and Wild Woody is a runaway loser of this category.
That's where I am too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I think Frankenstein is a worse game than Batman Forever, but I think given that we have the shared experience, and in particular how shitty it was for them to release a lesser game on Game Boy, significantly lesser, like fuck that
like
game.
Barely a video game?
Yeah.
Hey, that was easy.
Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster is like the indie darling that gets nominated for Best Picture, but is never going to win. Like, you're just glad it made it on the list. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just glad that this little game that could believed in itself to make it into the top 3 worst, or not worst games, but top 3 games that suck.
Yeah.
Because it is worth saying, which you may have mentioned at the top, like, we're not combing through every game that exists and defining, like, the lowest rated Steam game from 1995. Like, who cares? I'm sure there are games that are way worse than all 3 of these games. But these are the games that we played that fucking suck, man.
And you know what? Fade to Black, it's a dishonor just to be mentioned.
Right. You could say that for everybody on this list.
Exactly.
Except for Rayman and Donkey Kong Country 2 and Worms and Gex.
Oh my god. I will fight you through my microphone. Those are bad.
We'll talk about
games.
some of those.
We'll talk about
some of those on the games that don't suck.
Hey, so God, what do you do with that number 1 slot for Wild? I mean, you don't clap for Wild Woody. What do you?
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Oh, we gotta give booze to the number 1 games that suck 1995 slot. Wild Woody. Boo. Go home. Go
Wild
think
Woody.
about your life. Hey, that was fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time with
that. We got plenty more to do, man.
Yeah, it's a good thing it was fun because boy are we signed up for a long time.
Well, technically, at the time of recording, we have not launched this, so we could just scrap the whole idea.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
But we're not going to do that. That's too much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, I hope all of the listeners at home had a good time listening to it. If you have thoughts on your bottom 3 games of 1995, or reactionary thoughts to Shea and I's decisions, or things that we talked about throughout the course of this podcast, you can send those thoughts via electronic mail through the internet.
Was that around? Was that around in 1995?
Honestly, I don't know. I was 3. I don't remember.
Send a postmarked letter.
Yes.
To my personal mailing. Sorry, Kyle's personal mailing
Yes, my
address. As the
personal
host,
mailing.
Kyle, you want to go ahead and read your address? for
Yeah,
everybody?
absolutely, out loud. Send your thoughts in to info@SheaHatesEverything.com. That is info@SheaHatesEverything.com. And we will read your emails. We'll probably read them on the normal podcast where we read all the other emails.
The flagship.
Yeah, as
Yes.
sort of like a cross-marketing scheme to get
hell
people to listen to all of the Shea Hates Everything family of podcasts.
Synergies. you got that marketer's mindset, bro.
That's right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Thanks, everybody, and fuck Wild Woody. Peace out.